So this is my new wildlife cinema camera, the RED Komodo X. Over the last few months, I've had a couple of shoots, one up in the Canadian Arctic, and I had a couple shoots on Vancouver Island, and I've been tinkering with it for the last while to make it the perfect setup for me. In this video, I'm gonna strip this entire camera down, I'm gonna build it back up, I'm gonna show you my process and what I look for in building a rig setup like this, and a couple things that I wish I did differently, and also a couple of things I still need to figure out. All right, let's get into it. So like I said, I ended up going with the RED Komodo X. It was a big debate for myself for quite a long time. I wanted to go with either the RED Raptor or the Canon C400, or I even just thought about just sticking with my trusty old Z camera. I still have the Z camera. I thought about selling it, but at the price point of which I would be able to sell it for, I think it's actually just nice to have as a standby secondary camera. And I still really do like the Z camera, but the RED Komodo pretty much offers everything I need in a wildlife cinema camera, except a few limitations that are the frame rates that I could get out of the V Raptor. The RED Raptor, I could shoot 4K at 240 frames a second and 8K up to 120. I'm a little bit limited to 4K 120, 6K at I think 80 frames a second with the RED Komodo, but for a majority of the things that I do film, those frame rates are more than I need. It's pretty rare that I'm shooting really high speed stuff unless I'm doing like birds or anything that just has a high speed of movement. So it doesn't matter really what camera system that you're shooting on, whether you're on a Nikon Z8 or you're on a Canon mirrorless camera, you're gonna need to have some kind of cage. So right here I've got a wooden camera cage with a side rib that I can mount all sorts of accessories all around it. And they're very useful for my camera rig. So I'll show you the little bits and pieces that I'll end up mounting on here later. But it doesn't matter what camera system you're shooting on, you're gonna need to have some kind of cage. So I ended up going with the wooden camera advance kit for the RED Komodo, and I'm pretty sure that this works with the original Komodo and the Komodo X, so it doesn't really matter what camera you do have, it'll work on both. Let's get the base plate mounted like that and just tighten it down, get it roughly in the position where I want it. And I'm not using native RF glass, so I do adapt all my glass, which actually is a benefit because the RED Komodo doesn't have the internal ND like a C400 or an FX6. So what I needed to do was find an adapter with rear ND filters. I don't like to put those big ND filters on the front. I'd very much rather have ND behind the lens. So when you adapt it, you'll be able to have the option to do that if you don't have the native glass. You can't do it with, like, if I had an RF glass, there's no way of being able to rear filter it. So when I do use my native RF glass, I do have the Canon RF 100 to 500, so I have the appropriate filters for that. So I ended up picking up this Meike drop-in filter mount. It's really nice because it just kind of pops out like this. You've got the rear glass, just goes in as a holder, and then I've got the cartridge that has the variable ND as well with like a little wheel. And I have to say the build quality of the Meike isn't too bad. I mean, I feel like the little wheel on the variable ND seems a little bit weak, and it's just a very short throw when you go from full to minimum amount of variable ND, so it kind of feels a little bit cheap, but the optics overall look great. And so at this stage I'll put my 15 mil bars into place. So I just put the 15 mil bars in like that. So the lens that I like to shoot quite often is the Sigma 60-600. I absolutely love this lens. It's so incredibly sharp, and it has a nice wide field of 60 mil, and then I could punch in, go to 600, and then I also have the TC 2001, so it's a 2-time telephoto converter. This telephoto converter is absolutely really nice. I really do like that telephoto converter. But one of the issues with this lens is that it barrels so much. Like when I'm going wide, I'm at 60, and then it barrels way out and it goes to 600, and all of a sudden the center of balance just got thrown way off. It got thrown forward. So now my balance on my tripod is way off. So having this base plate here with the airy dovetail, I'm able to adjust the camera position on the tripod forward and back, so I have a nice balance on it. But it is one of those things that I don't really like. That's why we end up using the Canon 50 to 1000, because it's got an internal zoom, and you get 50 to 1000, and it's got a 1.5x telephoto converter built into it as well, so you can get up to 1500 mil. But that doesn't barrel, so like when you set the balance on your tripod, it doesn't shift at all. I don't have to move it. Once I balance my tripod once, I don't have to do it again unless I put on more accessories on the rear, which I pretty rarely do. When I have my camera, you know, ready and built and set up, I rarely have to do any adjustments. But when I'm with this setup, I'm constantly shifting it forward and back on the tripod. It's a bit annoying, but when you get used to it, you don't really notice it anymore. It is one of those things about having these lenses that barrel out that I don't really like. I know there are a lot of other lenses out there that don't barrel, but some of them, like a 200 to 600, I know Sony has a 2 to 600, but the issue is that having 200 is not wide enough for me. Like I love to get big wide shots of my landscape and the environment where my animal lives. I like to get the wide, the mid shot, and the really tight shot. So I don't like having just 200 mil. It feels very restrictive. So at this point, I will put my lens onto the Meike adapter and click that into place. Love that sound. And next I'll put on my lens support. I've got a SmallRig lens support that I modified ever so slightly. I had to saw off the bottom of it. It was just sticking out way too long. It was kind of getting caught on things. I had other base plates kind of hitting it. So I ended up sawing it off just to make it flush with I need it to sit. And I like to build it in this order because now with the lens on the way it is, I've lined up my lens support perfectly where I want it to sit. And then I just slowly snug it into place. And then I just lock it down right there. And it should be perfect, because if I were to do it like this and try to put the lens support into position with this, there'd be a bit of a dip, and there'd be a lot of pressure on this RF mount right here. So you don't want to break that mount. So doing like this just takes all the weight off the mount, and then you can have it lined up absolutely perfect for where you need it and without putting any strain on the mount. So next I'm going to put on my airy dovetail plate. Get that into position. And so for this camera, the next piece of gear that I put on is I've got this RED Pro V-Lock IO module. I don't necessarily need to have this on, more of I want to have this on so I can add on more accessories. I mean, if I was gonna go really, really lightweight, could operate this camera without this V-Lock IO module, but I'll talk about why I'm gonna put it on right now with another piece of gear later. So now I'm gonna add my battery. I've got one of these Core Nanos. And next I've got my top handle. So top handles are always quite useful for carrying your camera equipment around and for mounting other devices. So I ended up going with the Portkeys monitor. I absolutely love this monitor. It's really, really bright. It's very functional, works really well with my RED Komodo X. And I've been shooting on small HD monitors for quite a long time. I've been shooting on the Red Raptor for quite a while, and when I look at this monitor, I swear it's a small HD, except for the interface is just a little bit different. Well, it's a lot of bit different, but the image itself looks so similar. Like when I look at the focus peaking and the zebras and all these other little things that are in this monitor, I really feel like I'm shooting on a small HD quite often. It's just like Portkeys must have the internal workings of a small HD, but they just packaged it in their own model. Like, I might be wrong about that, but I suspect that small HD has something to do with building this monitor. I should look into that, but anyway, it's a great monitor at a really good price, and it works so well with the RED Komodo X. I can't recommend this monitor more. Yeah, anyway, so we'll mount this. I mount monitors in a lot of various different ways. For the sake of this build, I'm just gonna mount it on top like this on this SmallRig articulating head, so it kind of, spins around. I can, bend it forward and back, and it's quite functional. Sometimes I don't like to have it so tall, so I'll put it on a Noga arm and have it off to the side. But you know, for this demonstration, I'm just gonna go with this one. So the next thing I'll add to this camera rig is this little device right here. This is a Mutiny 12G isolating module, and basically what it does is just prevents power surges on when I start up the camera. So when I start up the camera, there's a big power surge that happens, and through the 12G SDI cabling, that you can get a power surge that can actually fry your boards in here. So this is just one of those little devices that I like to have. It's just when I turn it on, it's in isolation. When everything's powered up and ready to go, I can put it into signal, and then I've got my image. So it's like one of those things that's just gonna really save my camera, I think. So it's really important to have. Now that I've got the isolator mounted right here on the side of the camera, I can run power to it now. And I've got a 2-pin LEMO that can go in, click in here. And then we come out, and then we run power to the monitor. I like having nice short cords that are appropriate for the length. I don't like to have super long cables just all over the place. So, and then I'll run my SDI cable. Here, got my longer one for here, so I'll go to input 1 on here, SDI in here. And one of my latest purchases is this Mutiny button recorder. How cute is that thing? Anyway, the entire reason why I use the V-Lock IO module on the back of here is so that I can actually have a run stop switch on the back. And the only way I can do it is that it plugs into this port right here on the back of this IO module. It doesn't actually have one on the body, so we won't be able to use this little button. And this is so important when I'm filming wildlife that I just can't live without it. I can hit record in a lot of different ways on this camera, but having this button is the key to like limiting my camera shake. So it's kind of funny because I just usually just leave this kind of dangling here, and when I'm operating the camera, I usually just kind of keep my hand on the pan bar and I just keep this off of it. Like a lot of people like to bolt these down onto their pan bar, but even that little pressure of pushing down on the pan bar could just, even if you're light with it, could still create a little bit of shake. So I like to keep it off, and as I'm panning and I'm on pre-record and I'm following my subject, and I just 1, 2, 3, 4 click. You know, it's just so smooth, and like in my head, I'm just like always on this button. And especially if I'm doing really long lens stuff, like say I've got my telephoto converted, and like say I have my telephoto converter on here, and you know, I'm way at the end of my lens and it's windy and I'm trying to just get as stable as I possibly can. Any little shake will you'd really notice it. So just be able to hit that button. It's perfect. And this is my camera rig. What do you think? I've built a lot of camera rigs over the years, and this is just my go-to way of building something out. And if you have any tips or tricks or pointers on something that I could improve this on, that would be really, really helpful, really grateful. I'm always wanting to learn more. And one thing I need help with actually is a good rain cover. Rain covers have always been a tricky thing for me. I've never really found a rain cover that works for the environments that I shoot in. I've had a lot of different like bags that I whip over top, or my Gore-Tex jacket, and I'll use the hood over my monitor and just kind of use the arms from my jacket to, you know, it's not really the best way to do it, that's for sure. But you know, I live in the Pacific Northwest, I shoot in the rain all the time, and you'd think I'd have a really good rain cover, but I don't. So if you have any recommendations on a good rain cover, that'd be really, really helpful. And that's my camera rig. We'll see you on the next one.